Mascot Roundup. And how about the band? The majority of tonight's program is dedicated to teachers and the programs of Wildwood Middle School. So, let's get started. Who's our first guest, Zoe?
Our first guest is Denise Lykens, a science teacher from Wildwood Middle School. She has some information about a joint project with the Pittsburgh Children's Museum. Please welcome Denise Lykens.
Welcome. Thanks for being on the show. We have a couple of topics to get started with. So let's start with the children's program at the Children's Museum. What is that program and how did it get started?
We, as a school, were invited to participate in Pittsburgh at the Children's Museum to a program called Maker. It's controlled by a grant from the Benedum organization, and it's a very large grant to get a maker studio started at our school.
I saw the Make Shop online. How does that work from a distance?
Well, Make Shop is really not a distance learning. It's actually within the school itself. We take our students there. They create and build and construct items that go with the curriculum.
How often do the students partake in the Make Shop activities?
Well, right now we're at the very beginning start of building the Maker's Shop. So we haven't come up with that type of schedule yet.
So how is the program going so far, or is it too early to tell?
Well, actually, we're just taking the very beginning step. We now have the grant. We now have a grant, and we have had a visit from several of the people at the museum to look at the spaces that are available at our school. And once that's decided what space we have, then we'll be purchasing items through the museum for that space.
Very interesting. And there's another program called Sea Perch. What is Sea Perch, and how does it relate to science?
Sea Perch is a STEMS learning opportunity for students, and it develops engineering, mathematics, circuit boards, electricity, and just flat-out engineering students.
It's also, the program is also designed to encourage teamwork, team building, and competition as well. It's part of a larger national program where students can be challenged with a certain issue that they have to solve, a problem that they have to address by using a remotely operated underwater vehicle. And then they get to design and try to figure out how to make that thing do a certain task. And they get to compete against each other.
What skills are the students learning?
Engineering, electrical work. This little box here literally is components in it that they had to solder. Students have to understand how the electrical components work to get their motors developed. They had to measure, they had to understand what buoyancy was, and actually the purpose of the Sea Perch in the future.
Well, where did the name Sea Perch come from?
It came from a gentleman who developed the Sea Perch, and it's named after the USS Perch. That was a submarine that had the first air conditioning in it, and it was scuttled because it got hit by a Japanese bomb. So he named his device Perch after it.
How did Wildwood Middle School end up in the program?
Well, one day, a long time ago, not too long ago, probably about a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
A year and a half ago, my daughter was in Wildwood, and I was familiar with this program for years, actually, from working in NOAA and being familiar with marine operations. And I knew about the appropriate grade level, so my daughter's my oldest. She was in Wildwood, and I went, maybe now's the time to see if anybody might want to spin this up. And so I spoke with Pat Brockway, and she said, oh, I know the person you need to talk to.
He came to my door.
The rest is history. We started chatting about what this is about, and it seemed like a good match, and we pursued it.
How about the future of Sea Perch at Wildwood?
We would like to challenge all the middle schools and even the high schools to come out and build their own sea perches and meet us in the pool next spring for a challenge, because the students would like to then go to Annapolis to compete nationally, and then if they do well, then there's LSU for the high school students.
Share with us your thoughts on the effectiveness of seeking outside resources compared to textbook-only instructions.
Textbook instruction limits learning, where outside resources like Sea Perch and Maker and all the other things that we do within our school supplement and add to the learning experience. I think some of these students here really now believe in themselves, and as scientists really look forward to doing what the next step is for their Sea Perch.
One of the things that I really appreciate about the Sea Perch program is the sponsorship and support from Navy and from a trade group, which is composed of companies that make autonomous vehicles in the air, under the sea, on the sea. They bring a certain level of support and resources that it's hard to find within your local school district. Another side benefit, another great benefit of being in this area is our proximity to Washington, D.C. We had training to learn how to teach and build. You had to build one of these ourselves so we could actually show other people how to do it.
Yeah.
And that was done down at Naval Weapons Systems Center, Carter Rock. It's down in Bethesda, which is an amazing place to see the real-world applications of science, technology, engineering, and math, and how important it is to our nation, quite frankly. So that connection that you get from being able to mess around with the Sea Perch, put it together, and learn how to do it, and then actually see people that do this for a living, that's something that you just can't get out of the textbook.
It's a real-world experience for them.
Thank you, and we hope you can come again. Denise Lykens, everyone.
Denise Lykens.
My new mom and I have a lot in common.
The great outside.
We both love the outdoors.
So shiny.
That's not a flower. We both love geology.
Oh, look. An igneous one.
That's not a rock. And she knows a lot about wildlife.
A labradoodle.
That's not a dog. Hanging out has been kind of fun.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of kids in foster care will take you just as you are.
Can you help me with this? My new dad teaches me all kinds of stuff.
Sure.
He helps me with homework.
That would be 3.6795.
Thanks.
Yep.
He helps me with my decision making.
I wouldn't use this one. Ever.
And he's even teaching me how to drive.
And that's why cars have bumpers.
I'm learning so much.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of kids in foster care will take you just as you are.
A boy born in Joplin, Missouri was fascinated by anything with wheels and a motor. The odds of him going on to fascinate millions with his talent? 1 in 260,000. The odds of this born racer having 157 career top 10 finishes in NASCAR? 1 in 125 billion. The odds of him winning both the Daytona 500 and the Brickyard 400 in the same year? 1 in 195 million. The odds of a child being diagnosed with autism? 1 in 68. I'm NASCAR driver Jamie McMurray, and my niece has autism. Learn more at autismspeaks.org/signs.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us now, You're watching Mascot Roundup on JCS Television. Who's our next guest, Zoe?
Our next guests are Carolyn Thomas from Wildwood Middle School and Francine DeRonda from Harpers Ferry Middle, participants in the Jefferson County version of Trout in the Classroom. Here to tell us about the Trout in the Classroom project is Carolyn Thomas and Francine DeRonda.
Welcome to Mascot Roundup. My first question is for Ms. Thomas. How did the Trout project begin, which has expanded to where it is now?
Well, we started about 6 years ago with a grant from Ecolab, which is a Martinsburg company, which provided the funds for the first aquarium setup. And then with support from the Winchester chapter of Trout Unlimited, we hatched our first batch of brook trout eggs. And from there, it now includes 5 Jefferson County schools and a total of 7 classrooms. And my colleague Francine from Harpers Ferry Middle School has one of the Trout in the Classroom setups now.
To Ms. DeRonda, what materials are needed for each location to be able to participate in the Trout in the Classroom project?
There's several pieces of equipment that are available and need to be set up. There's a large tank. It needs to be a 55 gallon tank. A chiller because trout need cold water. It's a kind of an air conditioning for water. And a nice filter, some insulation. You have to insulate the tank to keep it cold and dark. And then, of course, the fish. And the Trout Unlimited folks deliver the fish to us, the eggs.
During the growth cycle for the trout, what is a daily or weekly procedure for students to follow or observe?
When you first get the eggs, it's very important to take out any dead eggs that you might see. They're usually physically different than the rest of the eggs. They turn white, so you need to take them out with a pipette and remove them because the fungus could spread to the other eggs and ruin your whole batch. So when you first get the eggs, that's the main thing. And monitoring the chemistry of the water. You have to make sure the nitrate level, pH level is good for the eggs to develop. And then once they develop, they're the alevin stage, and then when they get older, they'll do this swim up stage, and that's when you start feeding them. So there you need to have more, take more care and pay attention a little bit more to the elements of the tank.
So one of the things that students do is they feed the fish and they monitor the water chemistry.
How old are the trout before they're released back into their natural habitat?
Well, the eggs come in October, and then they're released sometime in May, so they're roughly 7 months old when they're released, and they're approximately somewhere between 2 and 4 inches long when they're released.
Are there environmental considerations at the release locations?
So what we do, we have like a big trout delivery in the springtime. We gather up all of the fish that have grown up in Jefferson County, and we take them in buckets on a bus with a group of students, and they get released in Redbud Run, which is a tributary of the Apecan. And when we go down there, we're looking for a good place for trout to be released. So we're looking for fast-moving water that's clean and cold.
You want to test the streams first?
Yeah, we do test the streams. We test local streams and where the fish are eventually released. Trout Unlimited does the testing there.
Right, and so this is part of the science curriculum. So within the science curriculum, we provide opportunities for our students to do some local water monitoring and relate that to what trout need and does it have the conditions that they need to survive.
Of the local streams that have been used to release fish, have you found the water quality?
So one of the questions that our students consider is why aren't there any brook trout in Jefferson County? And we look at the issues that trout need. They need cold, fast-moving water. They need good food. They need riparian buffers. And at this point, this is a conversation for students. Based on the research, do you think trout can live in our Jefferson County streams?
When you release the fish, what is the procedure? Are there special tanks for the transport?
We use 5-gallon buckets like you use from Home Depot, and then we use oxygenator to oxygenate the water to transport it, and ice. because the temperature of the water needs to remain cold even for a short period of time from transport to delivery to the stream.
If other schools are interested in this project, what should they do or who should they contact?
Well, I'm sort of the cluster leader for the Eastern Panhandle, and I'm a good place to start, and then we will connect with the Child Unlimited chapter in Virginia.
Thank you both. Please come again. And speaking of that, Mrs. Thomas will be right back after this break. We'll be right back.
They said I couldn't dream. Called me a piece of trash and swore that's all I'd ever be. Said a bottle couldn't see the ocean. Give up. Go back to the dumpster. But I didn't listen. I made my way. And now, I am what I've always wanted to be.
There's a shelter pet who wants to meet you. Meet one today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org. Adopt.
And then from this angle, it all makes a star.
I'm a teacher. Let me tell you what I make. I make learning a privilege, not a chore.
Show up
And frustration, a tool, not an obstacle. I make working hard seem easy and giving up impossible.
And then we're going to turn on the lights and everybody look up.
I make an old subject feel like a fresh thought.
Finally won. What's your reaction gonna be? Yeah, exactly.
And unconventional methods
Okay, what else?
common.
This is their world.
There's nothing.
And then they die. Go ahead, go, go, go.
I'm a teacher. I make more.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us now, you're watching Mascot Roundup on JCS Television. Who's our next guest? Zoe.
Carolyn Thomas remains our guest, Tatum, and she is back to talk about what it means to be a National Board Certified Teacher. Please welcome Carolyn Thomas.
Welcome back to Mascot Roundup. We're going to talk about National Board Certification. What is National Board Certification?
Okay, it's a great question. So National Board Certification is the highest level that teachers can achieve. It's based on a recognition for a portfolio of work that's accumulated demonstrating teaching and learning.
There are only 10 teachers in Jefferson County with National Board Certification. What do you perceive as the value of this certification?
I think the value of the certification really lies in sort of a personal recognition of the dedication and hard work that every teacher does and brings into the classroom, and then taking it to the next level and demonstrating that to a national organization.
Has this impacted you as a teacher?
I think it has. I think I'm a better teacher for having gone through the process.
How long did it take you to earn the certification, and what did you have to do?
Well, the certification process is open for 3 years, so you have 3 years to complete it. I was able to successfully complete mine in 1 year, but it's a portfolio, so you accumulate several videotapings of teaching, lots of reflection on what was the impact on student learning, and that's what really drives the whole national board process.
What was a more memorable challenge, and was any of the journey fun?
I am eternally grateful that the year I worked on this so that we actually had a lot of snow days because it takes a tremendous amount of time. I mean, hundreds of hours of work goes into putting this portfolio together. And in no way would I ever think back that it was fun. I think it was immensely rewarding to me personally, and I think that it really elevates the teaching profession when teachers go on to pursue national board certification.
Okay, teachers, there you go. Go to National Board of Professional Teachers Standards site at mbpts.org and get started. There's another topic you want to discuss, and that was the coding class at Wildwood Middle School. Tell us about that class.
Well, I was actually able to bring my student, Jacob Doyle, and what I thought I would do is I would interview Jacob so you could learn a little bit more about what we do at Wildwood in our coding class.
You know what? That sounds like a good idea. You good?
All right, so Jacob.
Okay.
Hi, Jacob. Thanks for coming to Mascot Roundup with me. I thought we would tell Tatum a little bit about a brand new class that we're doing at Wildwood, and you're really part of an inaugural group, and it's our third period coding class. And we started out this year by recruiting students like you who are interested in learning to do some computer coding. So I'm just going to ask you some questions about what we do. And first of all, can you tell me why you wanted to take computer coding?
Well, I wanted to take computer coding because it's good to learn technology, how everything's advancing in technology. You want to keep up with everything. You don't want to be left behind, like, oh wait, what does this mean?
Yeah, and I think, Jacob, as you grow up, it doesn't really matter what you end up doing. Coding is going to be part of your career. So whether you're a scientist or a writer or a musician, learning how to code is really an essential literacy. So the program that we're using is called ALICE, and it was developed by Carnegie Mellon. And the program that we use is also supported in part by Duke University and Stanford University. So real power hitters in the field of computer science. What can you do with ALICE?
Well, you can set up classroom projects, and you can make games and different type of everything pretty much. You could, once you learn the process of how to code everything, it's just the basis of what you want to do with it.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, when they hear about coding, they think that they got to be typing in parentheses and slashes and commas. So how does ALICE work? What kind of coding do you have to do?
Well, it's a 3D visual coding. It's a drag and drop type thing, to where all you really have to do is add your objects in and drag in what you want them to do.
And Jacob, one of the reasons that we're doing this is there's a national campaign called Hour of Code, which is starting in December. And as I told your class, one of your jobs is going to be to go out and visit other classrooms and teach them how to do some basic coding. Are you going to be prepared for that?
No, definitely.
Yeah. So if you were making a recommendation for expanding middle school curriculum, what do you think the place of computer coding should be?
I think it should be like in our rotation of 9 weeks. Like we have different, we've got general music and all of that. You can add in coding along with maybe the computer classes, because I've never been in it because I'm in band, so
Yeah, and I think you're right, and this is what a lot of schools around the country are starting to do, is integrate coding into the curriculum. And I'm so glad you've been part of my class. Do you want to tell Tatum about one of the programs that you wrote? Like, what could you do?
Well, I wrote a program of a knight versus a dragon trying to save a princess, and I did another one where it was an island. You had to escape the island on a boat. And then I made a car game where you can
select your own car and then drive around in it around the city. And I made a moon one where you could walk around as an astronaut on the moon, exploring moon bases.
Yeah, so Tatum, so that's a really new thing that we're doing at Wildwood Middle School, and we're really proud to be leading an innovative class in Jefferson County Schools.
Besides the computer and development software, is there anything else that's required for the class?
No, actually, Alice is a free download software, so we worked with our tech department to install the software, and we invited students in to get started.
Do you see this class expanding in the future? If so, are the options for expansion limitless?
Well, that's what Jacob and I are talking about. How do we get more students in our school interested in coding? We've got a very supportive administrative, so we're looking forward to expanding this.
What do you see as a possible expansion of this class at Wildwood?
Well, I think it's what Jacob said. Perhaps we could work this into as part of a regular related arts curriculum. We've offered it as an after school, and this year we're offering it as part of our third period enrichment.
Well, thank you once again for being on the show, and thank you to the cheering squad in the audience. We'll be right back.
The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today.
Hi, may I please have an application? Thank you.
Skip the drama. Get your diploma.
Okay.
Take that first step towards a better future. Find free adult education classes at finishyourdiploma.org.
I like to eat apples and bananas. I want to eat apples and bananas. I need to eat apples and bananas. Why can't I eat apples and bananas?
1 in 5 children struggles with hunger in America. Support the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks to help provide meals to those in need. Join us at feedingamerica.org.
Just joining us now, you're watching Mascot Roundup on JCS Television. Who's our next guest, Zoe?
Our next guest is Alex White, Coordinator of At-Risk Educational Programs for Jefferson County Schools. Please welcome Mr. Alex White.
Welcome to Mascot Roundup. Jefferson County School is making an effort to improve attendance throughout the system. What role do you play in making sure students come to school?
Well, as the at-risk coordinator, one of my main responsibility is to help identify students who are at risk of dropping out of school for any number of reasons. That could include poor grades, disciplinary issues, and also attendance. Not coming to school often enough. So my job is to help identify those students, and then when we do, oftentimes the schools will come ask me to, they will ask me to come to a meeting rather with the family and kind of find out what's going on, what's wrong, and how we can fix it.
Does Jefferson County have an attendance goal or percentage that it aims for? If so, how are we in reaching that goal?
That's a good question. I should first start by explaining that absences fall into two categories, excused and unexcused. And in the past, we've always looked at when students miss school and they turn in a doctor's note or parent note, that's called an excused absence. And we didn't, those never counted against us in the past. And this year, we're taking a new direction. And so Dr. Martirano, our state superintendent, wants us to look at all absences of any sort. So it really comes down to the number of students in seats. The goal, to answer the question, the goal is 95% is what we aim for. So at any given day, we expect 95% of the students to be in school. Our schools right now, there are 17 of them, and they're pretty much hitting that mark. They're right at the 95%. Of course, we always want to do better and strive to do above the benchmark, but 95% is what we hope for, and we're doing that currently.
Is there a particular age or grade level that really starts to become a problem?
Not really. Truancy is defined by missing 10% or more of the school year, and it's not something that just happens all of a sudden to a student. It's more like a process, and it can start at a very young age. In fact, a lot of research shows us that even as early as kindergarten, if a student is truant, they are much more likely to become at risk later in middle and high school and run the risk of dropping out. So we really try to catch students early before it becomes a major problem.
What is Jefferson County doing to help students who aren't coming to school?
We're doing a number of things. In the past, we've traditionally looked at, like you've probably heard of perfect attendance awards. And so the shift now is not so much to recognize students who have perfect attendance. We're not as concerned about those students. They're doing a great job and they deserve to be commended. But now we're looking at most improved attendance. So we are tracking and calculating attendance, and students who may have missed 10 days in the first semester and in the second semester only missed 5 days. We want to applaud that, and we want to recognize those students and provide some incentives to them, whether it's in the form of a tangible incentive like maybe extra recess in the elementary levels or a gift card at the high school levels. So just to try to get them to come to school and reward them. We've purchased banners, and in fact there's one right out in the hallway for Washington High School, but each of the 17 schools have banners that talk about how attendance is important, and all students sign the banner and sign the attendance contract that basically promises that they're going to come to school each and every day that they're able to.
Can I ask you a question?
Of course.
Did you help create #SchoolEveryday?
I did not help create that, but that is one of the programs that we are promoting in the county.
Well, one last thing. If you could say one thing to young people to emphasize the importance of attendance, what would you say?
I would say, if a student misses, say, 20 days in a school year, it doesn't sound like a whole lot, but that's actually one full month of instruction. Over the course of their school career, they'll end up missing an entire school year. So though it doesn't seem that important when you're taking a couple of days off each marking period, it adds up over time and it creates gaps of knowledge. So I guess my resounding message would just be to come to school each day that you possibly can so that you don't get behind. And I think Jefferson County students have done a good job at that, and I look forward to helping them continue to do a great job with coming to school each day.
Well, thank you for coming on the show. And with that, we haven't run out of time, but unfortunately, we've run out of guests. I'm your host, Tatum Wardchow. But first, let's give a special thanks to, well, our guests, the garage band, technical crew, studio audience, and you, our viewers at home. I'm Tatum Wardchow. Good night, everybody.